And welcome to Impact 2026, our continuing conversation where we talk about all different types of topics, current events. We talk about what's on the news. We talk about race. We talk about religion. We talk about what's going on in the world today. And this is that safe place where you can have a conversation. Before we get there, though, I would like to remind people of the other offerings that we have here. And so on Thursdays at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Facebook and YouTube, we have Thursday Thirst. That's a weekly Bible study. So please join us for that. It's a great opportunity to dive deep into the Bible or get a better understanding of the Bible and what our responsibilities are. On Sundays at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Facebook and YouTube, and in person at the address on your screen, we have worship service. It's time to come in and be able to worship. That's 10 a.m. Just for people to know. On Tuesdays, today, at 7 o'clock, we have a time of prayer from 7 to 7:45. If you're praying at that time, you're praying with the people of this particular ministry. So it's you do it on your own, but anytime between that time, you will be praying with us. You don't have to pray the whole time, so you don't have to pray for 45 minutes straight, but just anytime in between that time. And then, of course, where you are now is Impact 2026, our continuing conversation. And at this place, you have the opportunity to join us in conversation by typing your questions and your comments into the comment section. So feel free to just type anything in there, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, in the comment section, and it will come up on the screen, and we will discuss it, whether it's a question, a comment, if it's just, hey, I agree, hey, I disagree, whatever you want it to be, feel free. All right, with that being said, we're going to go right into our topic for today. And as I've been saying for the longest time, we never have a situation where we're just wondering, like, is there anything going on? Is there anything that we need to talk about? No, there's always something to talk about. Unfortunately, it's a lot going on in the world today. Of course, you know, we still have wars going on, conflicts going on throughout the nation, and we talked about those. Not throughout the nation, but throughout the world. We've talked about those already, and we could continuously talk about them every day. However, we're going to talk more about kind of a current event. And unfortunately, this is not a fun topic, a great topic, or anything wonderful. This is a very bad topic, but it's a topic, and we have to address it, especially as males, as men. So, in three different scenarios, high-profile scenarios, three different news stories that have happened recently. We've had situations of domestic violence, but this domestic violence ended up in lives being lost. So here in Virginia, we had a high-profile case of where a former lieutenant governor, he killed his wife and then committed suicide. So had a murder-suicide here. They call it domestic violence, domestic dispute. And it was because, or from what they were saying, because they were going through a divorce. And as they were going through the divorce, things happened. Then in Louisiana, not too far away or distance as far as from the other event, there was a man who killed seven of his children and attacked other children and mothers of his children and his wife. And they said he did this because he snapped because of a divorce. They were going through a divorce, or the wife said that she wanted a divorce, and they said he kind of lost it and everything. And then in Utah, a man killed his wife and then himself. And it was because she came to him and also said that she wanted a divorce. And so we've had three separate situations on three different parts of the country: Virginia, Louisiana, Utah. And then you look at the situations again. You have in Virginia and Louisiana, they were black men. But then you go to Utah, white men. Why are we talking about race? That's always the question. Because it's not a race issue. It's not a location issue. So it's all over the United States. It's not a race issue. You're talking about black people. You're talking about a white person. I'm pretty sure we can find other races if we really looked at it in these situations. But the common theme is One, these were men who couldn't handle divorce, or the idea that their spouses did not want them anymore, or they could not work together, or whatever the issue. They couldn't handle the divorce and the separation. And two, that it became a murder suicide. So they decided to take somebody else's life and then take their own. And so, conversation. That's what it comes to. What is the conversation that we have? People are disturbed. They're wondering, well, why does this happen? What's going on? How can we stop it? And so some of the conversation has been, well, we have to talk to people about domestic violence. We have to make sure that there's, if you see signs of it and if there's domestic violence going on, then that can lead to these type of situations. Well, that's an assumption that there's domestic violence going on. That's an assumption that this is a pattern and that certain people have. And in some of these cases, there's no indication that there are domestic violence situations. And so that may not be the answer. And there's some of them, drugs and alcohol mixed in. And so you have people who have drugs and alcohol, and we have to be, be cautious in those situations where, all right, abusing drugs and alcohol is a significant situation. But how does that cause you to get to the line of murder and suicide? And then the others is they were saying, well, we just have to talk about our culture of being tough and make sure that people know that, killing someone and then killing yourself is a cowardly way to do things. Unfortunately, as much as I've heard that as a response, where we have to tell people that that's not a good way to do it. That's a cowardly way to do it. It sounds good, I think, in the moment, but the reality of the matter is, if somebody is doing that, where they killed someone else and then killed themselves, it's not they weren't sitting here thinking, well, this looks cowardly, because at the end of the day, they're killing themselves. And so people have been kind of racking their brains trying to figure out, well, how do we stop this then? Or how do we intervene? Or what do we do? And unfortunately, the answers that I've been hearing and the discussion that I've been hearing really is just people just throwing things out there. There's really no answer that has really been put out, other than let's just make sure that we talk to people and make sure that domestic violence, isn't a thing. Or let's make sure that we talk about it so that people can understand that that's not the way to go. As men, that we need to make sure that we can, handle different situations. But that doesn't seem to work when you have situations where, like the man in Louisiana snapped because he couldn't handle the information that was given to him. Having a conversation up to that. And so then it comes to, well, what do we do? And so for me, and since we're here at Impact, for me, the conversation then goes to, and it sounds extremely corny. It sounds extremely corny because the people will come in and they'll just be like, hey, man, you should just, just pray about it and just, But the reality of the matter is the only solution that I was able to come up with is actually, where are these people at when it comes to church? Where are these people at when it comes to a relationship with others? Where is it at when it comes to your support system? Because who you fundamentally are, who you've been taught to be, who you've grown yourself to be, who you are, kind of dictates how you're going to react in certain situations. And so I don't think having a conversation about being tough and being, or this is being a cowardly way to interact, I don't think that those things are going to change how you act when you snap, or how you act when you get that type of information, or when drugs and alcohol are involved. However, who you fundamentally are, based on your faith, based on the community that you're around, I think that kind of tempers how you may act, even when you kind of snap and kind of go into a spiral into a bad situation. Because if the first thing you do when you snap is you grab a gun, that is a behavior that's kind of learned and put into you. But if the first thing you do when you snap is you go to prayer, or go to calling one of your people in your support system, or go to, all right, I need to step away, that changes how you react in the moment. And so none of these are a great answer, but I do think, hey, we constantly talk about how we have these new problems, or not new problems, how problems are worsening all the time. Like, oh man, we have, for a moment there, we had some significantly bad suicide rates when we were talking about children. We're now talking about a significant problem is coming to men not being able to handle divorce or rejection. That's really what it comes to. Not being able to handle rejection and taking it out on violence on others and themselves. And we talk about all of these other issues that are going on. And then I point to the fact of, well, what does our church life look like? Because our churches are smaller than they've ever been. We have less people who are in organized religion than they've ever been. And then you kind of got to look at the correlation between what's going on here and what's going on here. And I truly believe, and it's just my opinion, and comments and everything, if you think differently, I truly believe that there's not a lot of answers to how you're going to dictate how somebody's activity is going to go when they're stressed out, or when they're in a bad situation, or when they feel rejected. But how they're brought up and their continuously reinforcement of their faith is something that will intervene in those particular situations. We got a comment. What we do know is there is a mental health issues. Are people in our society today less able to deal with difficult issues, such as divorce? Why do people seem to lose hope? There we go. Why are people unable to deal with anger, frustration, or disappointment? I think that hit it right there. That especially the third sentence when we're saying, why do people seem to lose hope? And so that's what it comes down to. If who you are fundamentally is, if who you are is your job, or if who you are is your family, if who you are is something that can be taken away, altered, or switched, then when those things are taken away, altered, or switched, you're going to react. I've always said that if who you are is your job, that's a bad place to be. If the first thing when people ask you, what do you do, or what do you like to do, or tell me about yourself, if the first thing you're doing is always talking about your job, I think that's problematic. Your identity should not be your job, your occupation. Like, hey, tell me about yourself. Well, I'm a doctor. I didn't ask about that. I asked about yourself. And so I think that that's a problem, because if that's taken away, then who are you? So if who you are is a doctor and that's taken away, then you're lost. You lose your license because something happened, or you use your ability because maybe your mental status is different and you're lost. It's the same thing with people who retire, and sometimes they just get lost and they just kind of wither away because they don't have that same identity anymore. But that also goes to, if who you are is, I am a father, which sounds great. It sounds so positive. I'm a father, and that's all I am. Well, if you're not the same type of father that you were, then you'll lose your identity. Or I'm a husband, and that's all you ever are. I'm a wife, that's all you ever are. Then you lose yourself. And so you got to have something more. You lose hope because your hope is in the thing. Whereas when people are with religion, when they're with God, when they're with Christ, their hope is not tied to a person, place, or thing other than God. And so you can take away your job, you can take away your family structure, you can take away this, you can take away that, but your hope will still be there because your hope is in Christ. And so, yes, that's exactly what it is. I think that when you have something that you can hold on to, God. When you have something that you can hold on to, your structure of people who that family structure, that faith family. So not the same kind of family where that can be pulled away, a faith family that can't be taken away from you. You'll always have that hope there. So you don't go to that dark place of, I'm just hopeless, or I have nothing, or I have no one, or you always have something. And so I think that kind of, and I think that's where the key is, where you answered it. The reality of the matter is, because our churches are smaller and because people have less faith and they don't have a higher faith or something to believe in, they're believing in things and jobs and people. And people will disappoint you. And situations will change. Jobs will come and go. And you won't be able to handle that because, well, if you can't handle those situations, you can't handle that change. I don't think it's because we're weaker or we're softer, which I do think some of that is true, that as a society, we're weaker and softer, but we have our trust and our faith in the wrong thing. As they used to say, you're anchored in the wrong thing. Because as weak and as soft as you may be, if you're anchored in the right place, you're not going to go down the route of, I need to end it all. And the worst part is, I need to end somebody else when I'm ending it all. That's the part that I've really, truly have never understood. Not encouraging suicide at all. I think that's a horrible thing. I don't want anybody to do it. But if you're going to commit it, why do you feel like you need to take somebody else with you? And that's with me fully understanding and realizing that a lot of the times it's you did a bad thing and then you can't handle it, and then you kill yourself. So, for example, your spouse says something bad, you hurt your spouse, then you realize what you've done, and then you take yourself out. And so I understand that there's a lot of times what that goes together. Another comment. As a nation, we have leaders who react to difficult issues and situations with threats and violence. If I can't have my way, then no one else will either. If this is what we hear in society, then we react with violence. Yeah. And so that's a weird one. That's a weird one because we have leaders who like to threaten violence, talk tough, but they threaten violence and they talk tough. But you also see that they threaten and they talk tough, but there's very little bite behind most of that. And so I think sometimes what will happen is when you try to emulate somebody who talks tough and has no bite, then you become somebody who talks tough and has no bite. And then you freak out when things don't go your way. And so you don't know what to do. And so again, that leads to things where you have to, you feel like suicide is your way out or something like that. Because that's the problem. We have a lot of tough talking with nothing behind it. Because when you know that there's something behind it, you tend not to talk as tough because the toughness has to be more rare. If you're somebody, you're not going to hit nobody. You're going to go around talking about, I'm going to punch you in the face. I'm going to punch you in the face and punch your face. Right. But if you're somebody who's actually going to punch people in the face, you can't punch everybody in the face. So you're rarely going to say, all right, I'm going to punch you in the face, because you know that you're not talking tough. You're talking what you're actually going to do. And so I do think that is a problem where we have this thing of everybody wants to kind of talk tough, be fake tough, because it gets you, it puts you in a box. It kind of puts you in a situation where, all right, I done said all these things. I don't really have nothing behind it. Now I don't know what to do and I got to freak out. And so I look at it more like that. Now I understand some people will look at it and say, well, like the government, they're over here blowing things up and doing stuff. And as much as they're doing things, I don't think they're really doing what they could do or doing a lot. They're talking tough, just tough talking. We're still doing a little bit of blowing stuff up and violence and all that kind of stuff, but we're not truly doing the things that we say that we're going to do because we're tough talkers, but we're not about that action. And so, yeah, I do think that that's a problem because we have leadership who are giving bad examples, tough talking. And most of us, at the end of the day, I think, are not out here trying to be tough. And we just box ourselves in with a lot of our words. But I lean that. So, yes, I think that's it. And so, yeah, as much as I've heard a lot of ideas and mental health issues, drug issues, I do think a lot of this is about you not having any other hope outside of yourself, any other hope outside of your job or your spouse or your family. You got to have more than that. And so because people have lost their religion, because people are not in church, because people really, they say that they, believe in God, and they say whatever, but they're not going to church, and they're not getting a foundation, they're not in relationship. I do think that has caused us to be a lot less hopeful as a society. And I think that's caused a lot of people kind of to be just out there, hopeless. Just when things go wrong, they don't know how to react. They don't know what to do. And so when people are sitting back and they're like, well, man, I'm not trying to go to church. I'm not trying to do this. I'm not trying to do that. I think that as a society, we're paying the price for it. You're seeing the results. We're seeing the results. People are ill-equipped to handle different situations. And so if there's anything that I think as people, is there anything as people that we know is those of us who were raised in the church, whether we send our kids to church or we still go to church now or whatever, we were given a foundation. And when things go bad, we do know where to turn. I think the problem that we have now is that people have less of a foundation because we're not requiring young people to get that foundation. They can choose what they want to do when they get older, but we're not requiring them to get that foundation. And so when people get into these situations, they don't know where to go because they don't have a foundation of where to go. And they're not connected to somebody else who they can turn to in the moment and that also can help them in their foundation. Now, that's not going to solve all the problems. These three scenarios that happen, who knows? They probably still would happen either way. Don't really know the depths of their religious experience and don't know the details of all of these particular situations. But that's what I believe is the difference. And as a church, I believe that that's one of the things that we have to remind people of. It is not for, you make your life better, this and that. A lot of people got good lives. A lot of people are fine. They're doing all right. But when things go bad, you need a foundation. If things go bad, you need a foundation. And that's what we're offering people. We're offering them hope. We're offering them a foundation. We're offering them another way so that you don't find yourself in a situation of where you feel hopeless and then you got to hurt others and hurt yourself. Another comment. In the Richmond area, there have been other situations where people have shot and killed others because things aren't going the way that they want. How do I handle disappointment? Yep. Where do I get my understanding on how to deal with disappointment? God closes doors, God opens doors. Exactly. It's funny. A friend of mine. So, just real quick, that's exactly. It's about dealing with disappointment and different things. A friend of mine, him and I taught him about. He's a little younger than me, so I taught him about stocks and trading and investing and things like that. So he really wanted to know. I taught him a lot of stuff that I knew, and then he flourished and learned his own stuff and did his own thing and all that kind of stuff. But he came to me and he said the thing that I've always said. He had lost his job at a point, and he said, because I know how to trade stocks or because I know how to invest, no matter what goes on in my professional life, if I lose a job or whatever, I can wake up and be like, I got a little bit of hope. If somebody can just give me like $10 or $20, I could probably invest it and turn it into something. He's like, so I'll never be out there without any kind of hope. And that's a powerful thing because I feel the same way because I do know how to invest. I feel the same way. Like no matter what goes on in my life, I can always just jump into the stock market, try to make a little bit of money from a professional standpoint. But that's the same type of situation we need to have in our life. No matter what's going on, my friend gets back here and says, no matter what's going on, I can go to the stock market and I can trade some stocks and I'll be, kind of okay. No matter what's going on, I can go to the Bible, I can go to the Word of God, I got the church, I got my church family, and I will be okay. That same kind of rationale is what I think what we need and what people have to have in order not to freak out. And so just like the comment, I'll bring it back up. Here in the Richmond area, you have people who can't deal with disappointment You can't, whether it be disappointment, whether it be tragedy, they can't function with things aren't going my way, and they don't know how to function. Well, when you have hope, when you have something else, when you have other things in your life, then no matter if one thing is not going your way, if 10 things aren't going your way, you always know, well, there's another way. There's some more hope. Always got God. Always got the church. Always got my church family. Always got something else. And so I think that's what we have to remind people. So this isn't the only thing that you can give people hope with, but I think the church is the right thing to give people hope with. I think that's what we do. I think that's our job. And so if people are sitting back and be like, well, why should I go to church? Or I don't got time for that. Or I'm not going to send my kids. We need to equip people for when things don't go your way. You need to have an understanding, and we need to all have an understanding of what to do when things don't go our way. And so, yeah, as we have this conversation, what do we do about men? And it's a domestic violence conversation. It is a substance abuse conversation. It is a disappointment conversation. It is the male ego conversation. All of that is true. And we need to continue to have those conversations because we don't need to continue to see these kind of stories. But mixed into all of that, I think we have to continuously have that conversation of, are you in church? Do you believe in God? Do you have hope? And I think that's the major difference. And that's the major solution, I think, that I see from these other conversations that's been going on. Because at the end of the day, when you, as it says with the man who harmed his children, he snapped. When you snap, I don't think that there's a lot of things that's going to be able to save you, except for your faith, or except for, really having something to hold on to, and that's faith and faith. Easter is about a difficult situation on Friday, but victory is on a Sunday. Yeah, that's what the whole faith is about. At the end of the day, when you're coming down, we always have victory on the other side. We always have hope on the other side, and our ultimate victory is everlasting life. And so, yeah, I really believe, that that's the answer. I really believe that the church is the answer for these situations. It's not going to solve all situations. You're going to have church folk doing the same stuff. And again, like I said, I don't know these people's individual lives. They may have been in church as well. But I think that as a society, when you look at the numbers and you look at the sizes of churches and the amount of people who go to church on a regular basis now, you look at the numbers when they're talking about the number of people who believe in God and faith in the United States, and that you look at these violent situations and these bad scenarios, I don't think it's a coincidence that the church has gone down and the violence has gone up. I don't. And so, yeah, as I'll put it back up, as it said, Easter is about a difficult situation. That is what our faith is about. Victory on the other side. All right. I know that wasn't, it's not a fun topic, because at the end of the day, these are tragedies where people have lost their lives, where families have been altered significantly, where communities have been broken. And so talking about stuff like this is not fun to do, but we have to talk about it. And I know people sit back and be like, oh man, this is not that just pray for them conversation. This is not, oh, you hear something bad, well, I'm just going to pray for you. No, this is not just pray for you conversation. Absolutely pray. But we have to put in the work to make sure that people are getting a real relationship with God and a real relationship with the church. You need both of those, because you need the people there that you can call, and you also need the faith in God that you can call. That's it. That's what I got. All right. Thank you for all the comments that came in. I really appreciate it. Please continue to have conversations, especially men. Let's have it with one another about these situations. We can't have this going on. As a reminder, on Thursdays, we have our weekly Bible study. That's Thursday, at 7:00. And it's Eastern Standard Time, Facebook and YouTube. On Sundays, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 10 o'clock a.m. We have worship service that is on Facebook, YouTube, and in person. 7 o'clock on Tuesdays, we have a time of prayer from 7 to 7:45. Please pray. You're praying with the ministry. And of course, we have Impact 2026 at 8 o'clock every week. Thank you for joining us. Please come and join again.